Hi, welcome to the galley and apple season. It is officially apple season. These apples are from the mountains of North Carolina. Now, I bought these apples just especially to make some apple butter because you do not have to have 6 pounds and make a whole bunch and can it. You can just make a small batch of apple butter to have in the refrigerator for the fall, and you can put it on your pancakes or waffles and your oatmeal. Personally, I just like it on toast. That's how I like it. So I got these apples. They are from the mountains of North Carolina. This whole thing of apples cost me $1.50. They were $1.50 a pound. This is just a little over a pound, and this is what we're going to make our apple butter with. We're just going to make a small batch of apple butter. Now, the first thing we're going to do is peel them. Now, a lot of people that have a food mill, they'll just put apples, peels, and cores all in together because they have a food mill. I do not have a food mill, so I find it better just to chop them up, and then I can just use my immersion blender, and it saves that whole process of having to have a food mill. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my apples peeled and chopped. Before I peel and cut my apples, I'm going to clean them. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I kind of think that any kind of fruit, potato, if I'm peeling it, I still always wash them first, because if there is any kind of insecticide or anything on that apple, I don't want it on my hand, and as I peel it and I'm twisting it, it's going to be on my hand and then on my apple. And I don't know. Maybe it's just a crazy me thing, but I still clean them. I clean them. Now, they said these apples, the sign said they were Slayman, and I thought Slayman was like a company that produced like seeds for like pomegranates and stuff, but I could be wrong. I haven't tasted one yet, so I'm going to taste one to see what the sweetness is of it. But first, let's get them cleaned and cut up. And this is another good reason to clean your apple. I'm going to take the opportunity to save my apple peelings and my cores to make apple cider vinegar. One of my fondest childhood memories was my mama making apple butter. She had a crabapple tree in the backyard, and she would make apple butter, and she would make a lot of apple butter. And I can remember the mornings I would wake up. I've always been a late sleeper, and I would wake up and could smell it. You could smell, and I would know she was making apple butter, and it was so delicious. I really wish I had her recipe. It's a shame that I don't. But I would go into the kitchen, and she would let me stand on a stool and work the food mill, and I just thought that was so much fun, and it was so delicious. She used to peel the apples. She left the peelings on when she made apple butter, but when she would just peel us an apple, and she would just do it with a knife and cut around and not break the peel. And of course, we thought that was like magic. So now I have my apples peeled. I'm going to cut them in quarters, cut out the seed, the core, and I'm putting my cores and my peeling in this jar. We just want to cut up your apples in pieces about that big, and I'm going to put those straight into my pot. And if you can see, like this apple, it does have some bruising on it, but we're making apple butter with it, so it's totally fine. We're not going to worry about that. And this is a great thing if you've just went apple picking, and I know you go crazy when you go apple picking. Well, at least I do, because you can't help yourself. You just keep picking and picking, and then you end up with a whole lot of apples. So if you end up with a whole lot of apples, you can make small batch apple butter really easily. If you pick a sweeter of an apple, then you can use less sugar in your apple butter. But if you pick like a Granny Smith that's really tart, you're going to have to use more sugar. So the sweeter the apple that you use, the less sugar that you can use in your apple butter. Fuji and Gala are the two sweetest of the apples. So if you're looking for a specific sweet apple so that you can use less sugar, then that would be two good choices. So I've got my apples in my pan, and to this I've added half a cup water, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. You could also use lemon juice as well, and if you didn't want to use apple cider vinegar. So I'm going to do just a tablespoon, maybe just a drop more. And now comes the sugar part. Now I'm going to do 1/4 cup sugar and 1/4 cup honey. You can do a 1/4 cup sugar and a 1/4 cup brown sugar, or you can substitute maple syrup. You can certainly do like coconut sugar. So use the sugar that you like. I like honey, so I'm going to go with the honey. So I'm going to do 1/4 cup sugar, and I'm going to eyeball this, and a 1/4 cup honey. And then comes the spices. Now you could use that apple pie spice blend that we made, or you could use my fall spice blend that's really pumpkin pie spice blend. You could do a little cinnamon and just a little nutmeg. Sorry, the boat's rocking. In case you wonder why I'm weaving. And I think because Mama only used cinnamon, I like just cinnamon. So I'm going with a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now we're going to bring this to a simmer, and we're going to simmer for 20 minutes until these apples are really soft. Our 20 minutes are almost up, but I just wanted to show you my apple scraps and just a little sugar water. And in about a month, set this aside out of the sunlight, and in about a month, I'll have apple cider vinegar. Now for our apples, we've got our burr mixer ready to go. I've left the cinnamon out just in case I need to spice it up just a little bit, and the sugar as well. I wish you could smell how good this smells. I'm making chicken stock and this today, so it's smelling pretty good in here. So I'm just going to get my burr mixer. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can obviously do this in a food processor or in a mixer or a blender. And now we get to taste it. First, I want to add a pinch of kosher salt and a little bit of vanilla. I don't know if you can tell, but the boat's really rocking. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put this back on the stove, and we're going to cook it until it gets to the consistency that we want, how thick you would like. It's delicious. I am putting a little more cinnamon because I want it just a little more cinnamony. So we're going to go back on the stove, and this is going to take about 20 minutes. It really just depends on how thick you want your apple butter to be. So I think we've reached the point of the thickness that I would like. It's so good. I love it. I love it. Now I have to make some bread so I can have some toast to go with it. And I'm kind of torn between doing 2 small jars or just putting it in one. I might do 2 and give one away. Makes a really nice gift. Now clearly you can make apple butter in big batches and can it. Or you can just have a few apples during apple season and make you some beautiful apple butter. It is so easy, so simple. You don't have to have canning skills. Let's see, what do I want to use? I've got my big ladle with soup or chicken stock. I think I'm going, obviously, with the 2 smaller ones. Now, just like everything else, you want to let this cool down before it goes in the fridge. It is very dangerous to put hot food in the fridge, so make sure it comes to room temperature. And you don't even want to put a lid on it till it comes to room temperature. Let it come to room temperature and then pop a lid on it. And there you have it. Under $2 worth of apples. Fresh apples from North Carolina. I was going to go apple picking, and the place that I like to go apple picking that's the closest here had frost in April or May, and unfortunately lost a lot of their apples. So they only had 1 day this year that you could go apple picking, where usually they have almost 3 months with before. Now look it up. 2 jars of beautiful homemade apple butter. How simple was that? Hope you make some apple butter. Let me know if you go apple picking and where you went apple picking and what kind of apples that you got. And let me know. Send me a comment and let me know if you made some beautiful apple butter. So I'm going to get back to finishing up my stock because it is, of course, soup season. So there's an idea. Let me know what kind of soups you would like to see coming up, because obviously I'm getting ready to make some soups. Thanks, y'all. Have a great day. Make some apple butter, and I'll see you later. Until next time, safe cruising.